Okay, let's talk about 20 millimeters. How many people have asked me about 20 millimeters? This is from my buddy in the yacht club. He wanted me to say hello to his wife, Christine. Hey, Christine, what's happening? I've lived by the water about half my life in Daytona Beach and my other home in Fort Myers near Sanibel Island. And in Daytona, there's this old guy, he's Captain Dan. He actually had a real wood leg. He could have got a prosthetic leg, but he loved bemusing himself as a pirate, so he has a real wood leg. But all this is true story. All his local sailor buddies and yachtsmen called him Captain Tripod. And you're supposed to ask him why you call him Captain Tripod. And if you ask him, he said, "Oh, I've got one wood leg and a pocket full of Viagra." And he actually talked like that. He said, "Every woman that comes aboard my ship gets one wood leg or the other one." I digress. So, hey, Christine. That was an inside joke for everybody else that didn't get it, but that was a true story, by the way. I used to do a lot of diving, mostly cave diving in Central Florida, up in High Springs. Had an underwater scooter and oxygen decompression tanks, and double steel 90 tanks, and redundant bladders, and underwater cave lights, and a Nikonos underwater camera. Oh my God, what a lot of gear. Anyway, everybody keeps asking me about the Nikkor 20 millimeters and what's the best alternative. I've got all of them laid out here, including the 20 millimeter Voigtlander color scope R, which is second best recommendation. It is just a hair above, well, a little bit more than a hair above the Nikkor 20 millimeter f3.5, but this lens has always been rare, and basically now, since I mentioned it a few hundred videos ago, it has become absolutely impossible to get. So I would recommend this lens very highly, but you really can't find it anymore. Exquisite results, very divine. 20 millimeter f2.8G. This is actually pre-D, same lens. It's the same optics also found in the AIS 20 millimeter, which I've also owned. It is an okay lens. It's good lens. The only reason I would buy one now is if I found one really, really dirt cheap. The autofocus ones are very noisy. They've always been very noisy, but it is a decent lens, but it's not that sharp. It has a few issues. It's still a wonderful lens. The price that it actually sells for is way too high. I would not recommend anybody getting this at its going rate, what it currently sells for used. Rather would I recommend getting the color scope R Voigtlander 20 millimeter f3.5. This is the 2.8. This is also the 0.35. Impossible to find now. This is the color scope R 20 millimeter. New, it sells for $500. Used for about $400 to $450. You can never really get a great deal on it used. It's the same size as the 28 millimeter. So 20 and 28 millimeter, both the same size, roughly same weight as well. Here's the lens. You're never going to find a deal on it. Never. It is very plasticky. However, as is the case, the 20 millimeter f1.8G Nikkor, this is the one Nikon lens that blows the balls right off the Zeiss 21 millimeter Distagon. Now, this isn't just my position, which, you know, I am objective in these recommendations. Not, well, I love this lens. Well, why do you love it? Because I love it. You know, I can't stand reviews like that, and nobody else should like them either. And I'm not interested in doing those myself, because those do a disservice for anybody else that spends money, and I can't stand to see anybody waste money based upon a purely subjective conclusion about a lens. I mean, it has to be objective and empirically and logically so the case that this is the conclusion given the exposure to all other 20 millimeters. Now, there are a lot of fine lines that would actually distinguish what I would call a God lens. You know, just I've got this silly rating system, but it's actually very logical. You talk about crap and good lenses and the cat's ass, and then I said the lens above the cat's ass is the tits. This actually rates right on the edge between, what I would call the tits lens and a god lens. This is being both funny, but actually empirically logical and subjective about this lens. This is the lens that, like I said, is not just me. Anybody else that's used this lens and the Zeiss 21mm Distagon will flat out agree that this blows the balls right off of the Zeiss lens. And that's the one Nikkor lens. Nikon really always has dominated over Zeiss in the ultra-wides, but it is ever so apparently the pinnacle exemplar case that with this 20mm 1.8G that this is a god lens from Nikon. Now it is plasticky so far as the construction, so if you want to fault it for that, it's fine, but I'm not going to hammer nails with the lens. This lens is absolutely exquisite. It's incredible. It's worth every penny of $800. Alas, you're not going to find it cheap, and you really aren't going to find it used either, because everybody that has this lens doesn't part with it. There are a few Nikkor lenses that the owners don't part with, and there's a damn good reason for that. It's like finding a used Shelby Cobra or something. It's like someone that owns it, loves it so much, you're damn well not going to find it for sale unless, that person's died and their widow is selling it or something. And that's the case with this 20mm f1.8G Nikkor. It's absolutely exquisite. It's divine, sublime color saturation, sharpness. It's the perfect astro lens. This is kind of a few lenses that I try to pack everywhere, including the Zeiss 35mm f2, which is the best lens that I own flat out. This is not that far behind. Like I said, it rates higher than the Zeiss 21mm Distagon. Short corner to corner, the vignetting on it is incredibly good. The Zeiss is incredibly bad vignetting. Color saturation and sharpness are nowhere near as good on the Distagon as it is on the 1.8G AFS Nikkor. Built-in internal motor. The only thing you have is a switch between manual and automatic. There is no vibration reduction, which you don't need anyway. To me, this is the best ultra-wide on earth for your Nikon. There's actually not anything that actually, comes within a cutting hair. And, I've thought about that some, and I'm actually pausing to think because I try to be incredibly subjective and empirical and logical about these lens recommendations. And it is not the case that, be it Voigtlander or Zeiss or anybody else, that anything comes as close as Nikon, who has brought perfection to this lens. Like I said, I've recommended recently the Tamron 15-30 as the best wide zoom on earth for your Nikon or even your Canon. And it is the case here for the Nikon that the 20mm f1.G is absolutely the tits. It's exquisite. It really ranks as one of about 3 or 4 god lenses that Nikon has. I won't mention the other ones right now. But definitely the 20mm f1.G, 1.8G Nikkor is a god lens. Unfortunately, it is $800. You're not going to find a deal on it anywhere, including gray market prices. If you do find one, it's going to be a needle in a haystack find. But anyway, I cannot recommend this lens highly enough. It's absolutely exquisite, and everybody keeps asking me about 20mm. Or the best ultra-wide prime, and I can say really without any reservations whatsoever that the best ultra-wide prime on earth, landscape, oh my god, for landscape, F it, it's this lens. For astro, it's this lens. Exquisite corner to corner, sharpness IQ, color rendition, this lens really is incredible. And it's impossible for you to buy this lens in any way, shape, or form. Regret it. Like I said, its one negative attribute is that it is rather a plasticky construction lens, since it's a G lens, which they all are. But the lens is absolutely exquisite. 77mm front front filter thread for it. The next lens right underneath it, and it has its own unique qualities since it's $450 used or $500 new, and that's a 20mm color scope R. That's a f3.5 prime, all manual focus. Exact same quality as Zeiss, exact same size as the 28mm Voigtlander. This is a 20mm color scope R. Also love it. For $300 more, you should get the 20mm f1.8G, but as a secondary lens, or if you don't have the money for that and you want to know what's an exquisite 20mm to get, yeah, it is manual focus, but it is built to last a lifetime. It does have CPU contacts, so it's like an AIP Nikkor. You can use it in program mode, aperture, shutter, manual. And that is this, the 20mm f3.5 color scope R by Voigtlander, made by Cosina Voigtlander in Japan. No less, not even 1% less quality than the Zeiss lenses. So that's it. That's the best ultra-wide lens that exists for your Nikon. Flat out, there really is no competition. 28mm f1.G Nikkor. Alas, not a cheap lens and not to be found at a discount anywhere. Thanks for watching. Catch you